Hi guys,
Good morning.
welcome to WRME Live. It is episode 110. I've been enjoying the cooler weather. I don't know where y'all are located, but the cooler weather that we had this week, only by like 15 degrees, has been lovely. I also heard that today it's going to be over 100 degrees, and I'm sitting here just dwelling. No, I'm good. I'm good. We had a late spring, so maybe we'll have an early fall. We can dream. We can dream. Okay. Carl is finishing up his wonderful vacation. He was gone this week for those of you guys who did or did not know. He tries to take a week-long vacation once a year, pretty much at the same time every year. Makes it easier to schedule, easier to get people to understand when he is going to be out of town. It's like every July, this week, I'm going to be out of town. They know pretty much a year in advance. I'm not going to be in town, but you can email me and I'll check it as soon as I can, which is usually around 2 or 3 o'clock after nap time and lunch. Priorities. Okay, today's topic is mediation.
Yes.
And I've been talking enough for probably 12 people, but at least enough for 2 of us. Mediation, for those of you guys, realtor or not, that may not know, mediation is when there's a dispute between 2 different parties, so we get a third party involved to try and come up to an agreeable solution. Or in some cases, where the third party says X is going to happen whether you like it or not, but we'll get there in a little bit.
Most people know mediation as it's the step you take before you have to go to court and have a judge decide.
Yes. Now, there is a little bit of a caveat on that note.
Right.
Yeah. In the past, with the old contracts from ORC, the Oklahoma Real Estate Commission, and from OKC, MAR, Metro Association of Realtors, those used to have it written where the Metro Association of Realtors of Oklahoma City would be the mediation, the third party that break even. But they've changed the contract to where it's the court that handles it. And I can kind of see why, because the default was for people just to kind of split it 50-50. And that's just not always the best case. And we'll get into some examples in a little bit. But mediation can happen for a number of reasons. The most common one that I'm familiar with is contractual. We agreed that X would happen, but it didn't happen. The second most common type, in my opinion, is this happened soon after I bought the house, and there's evidence that the seller would have known beforehand. For lack of better wording, I choose to believe that in many cases to give people the benefit of the doubt, and I just hope that the seller forgot. For instance, sold a house, back door the dirt to the back door was up to a certain level to where water just came in the back door. It was the garage. The sellers, it never inhibited the sellers. It wasn't a big deal to the sellers. And they just flat forgot because they went through a dry season. Just didn't come to mind. And then they sold it, and the buyers found out during this past monsoon season that dirt going right up to the back door is letting water into their garage. And so, fortunately, they were able to mediate it without it going to court. They, for lack of better wording, were civil enough to go, hey, this has happened. You knew it was going to happen. Thank you for letting me know that you knew it was going to happen. Just slipped your mind because you're human. Let's split the cost for paying a handyman to come out and dig out that little step that used to be there, so that way the water can't get into the house. Just move the dirt back, and we'll split the cost 50-50. Or in this case, it was 50-50, but I can think of another case where the seller just felt bad because it should have been disclosed. They had every right that it should have been disclosed, and just paid, I think it was $200 to have a handyman literally take a shovel and just dig out the foundation for quite a bit to where the water didn't pool in anymore. But that was the case where digging it out would have been a solution. What if it's more expensive? What if it's a French drain? Or maybe, for lack of better wording, there might have been some evidence of unethical procedures. Signs that the sellers not only knew about this, but tried to hide it. That's usually what this style of mediation is for. When you have to go to court because one party that doesn't understand why hiding this was a bad thing.
Right.
Or they get why it was a bad thing, that's why they hid it, but they didn't think there was any evidence that it was hidden. And now they have to go to court because they don't want to pay for the thing that they sold the house for that they didn't want to repair. There's a number of reasons, ethical or otherwise, that we go to mediation.
And that's only when the two realtors, the two parties talking back and forth cannot come to an agreement. Mm-hmm. And most of the time we try to find that happy middle ground for both parties so it doesn't proceed to this.
We've mentioned this one in the past, this is the mediation level that we prefer. Agent to agent working with seller and buyer to come to a happy middle to where no judges are involved, no legal fees are involved, and everyone walks away at least content with the solution.
Right.
They may not be thrilled about having to pay $200 or whatever the amount is, but now they're done with it. They don't have to deal with legal fees and attorneys and going to court.
Right.
And so the one thing I can think of is there was one that was, I want to say, we mentioned it when it came to 911 addresses and deed importances.
Yes.
And so we found out mid-transaction that the property had the same tax ID number as the neighboring house. Or was it the same tax ID or
same address?
Same physical street address, different tax IDs, fortunately. That's really hard to separate. But it had the same street address.
Yes.
And so that's mostly important for 911 and whatever. But during the transaction, it came to light and was addressed quickly by getting the buyer to agree on paper that they will go at their own leisure to update this one document with the courthouse so their street address is officially separate from the neighbors. And so it was all in paperwork, proving and protecting the seller, just in case the buyer just got busy and forgot, and also protected the buyer because buyer now has a documentation that if they ever have any questions about who was supposed to do that, they can go back and go, drat, I just flat forgot I was supposed to do that. Right. And that's what paperwork's for, and oddly enough. It's just a reminder and helper.
Unfortunately, the sellers never knew about it. So they had lived there all these years and never realized it. And once we discovered it, they called utilities, water, electric, everything to make sure there was no discrepancy because both houses had to have services. Gas, water, electric, everything. So, like you said, we just did a paper trail. Sellers knew about it. Buyers knew about it as soon as we knew about it. And here's the solution per talking to the city, county, for them to go change the address when they bought it. So, they did.
And that's the more common case. Something that no one knew about or flat forgot about because they've lived there for forever. And it happened 20 years ago and didn't think it was ever going to happen again. These, for lack of a better description, these innocent, crazy happenstances, they happen. And if we can wow, words are not my friend today. If we can handle them before legal grade mediation, that's what realtor to realtor mediation is for, to hopefully be as amicable, as quick, and as smooth, and as painless as possible. Because, no offense to the judicial system, they have their own time frame. They have thousands of other cases to handle that are a little bit more important than, why didn't the rose bush stay? I wanted the rose bush to stay. We get it's a big deal for you. Realtor to realtor, let's solve this. Maybe we can separate it by the root ball. Maybe there's two plants there. There's lots of weird gardening things we can do there.
And I, as the realtor on the seller side, would be saying, hey, what if they went out and bought you a replacement rose bush? I mean, it could be as simple as that. Okay, because they might not necessarily want that exact rose bush. They just want a rose bush.
True.
So talking sometimes can solve a problem.
And it's important to get it in paperwork. Paperwork. You're going to hear me say that even more today. But whether you're a client or a realtor, if it's noted on the MLS, noted on the some people do theirs on other websites like Zillow.
Realtor.com.
Realtor.com. If it's mentioned wherever you found the property that, for instance, the dryer stays, add it to your contract, because there is a lag between MLS and other websites for updating, And there's also the human time frame. If Aaron gets an email stating that the seller wants the dryer to go with them, she's not going to be near a computer for 3 or 4 hours because she's doing her own showings. And in the meantime, she gets an offer in. She hasn't had time to update the MLS with the public information just purely because she's showing land in the middle of podunk nowhere. Good luck doing that from your phone. And so these situations arise, and no matter what, put it in paper, whether it's on the MLS or not, whether it's on a disclosure or not, because if it's a big enough deal that you really want the dryer to stay, paperwork goes a long way, if for no other reason than to bring it up to the seller and remind them that you mentioned this dryer could stay. Can we have the dryer? And then you can negotiate from there.
And on those third-party websites, Realtor.com, Homes.com, Zillow.com, whatever one it may be, those sometimes, how they list their information is different than how it really is listed. Like, washer, dryers usually go, fridge usually goes, stoves usually stay, built-in microwave stay, oven top, stuff like that. But dishwasher. But sometimes Zillow or Homes or Realtor or one of those third-party ones will show as those are staying with the house, including the fridge, washer, and dryer, which is not always accurate. Mm-hmm. So take some of those with a grain of salt. It's the paperwork attached to the actual listing that will matter.
And if it's something you really want, put it in writing. If for no other reason than to prove that you want this. We have, Lord, I have so many stories. Dishwasher came to mind because we had a transaction where the dispute, if only extremely minor, was about the dishwasher. It was not built in. There are freestanding dishwashers. Right. And so the lady was like, I could really use taking my dishwasher to my new place. And eventually she's just like, yeah, I'm not going to move it. You can keep it. It's not a big enough deal for me to keep it. But it took a little bit of talking out. Right. And it's just, when you think dishwasher, most people think built-in. Not to her, because at her house, it was much older house. She had a freestanding one with a little countertop put on top, so that way she could use it as rolling counter space as long as a dishwasher. Right. And it's those unique situations you have to keep in mind as well. We've seen things from anywhere from drapes to butterflies on a fence to rose bushes to, get this, globes on a light fixture, but not the light fixture. The seller wanted the globes, but the light fixture could stay. We're going to have to be a little bit more specific on our disclosures if you really want this, but not that. And same with the buyers. We've had buyers that are like, I want the house, but you've got to put in a chandelier over the kitchen table because the other one looks awful. And that became a negotiating point. And that's another reason that when you get to the contract point, we want to solve these before they become mediation issues. That if the chandelier, if the rose bush, if this one section of drywall that looks like there was water damage is a concern, let's get it in paperwork, get it negotiated as part of the contract, so hopefully it never gets to mediation. Hopefully it never becomes an issue. And I know you guys, as far as the realtor people out there, really do their best to try and make sure it's on paperwork, that it's above board as possible. So just keep that in mind, guys, that maybe quadruple check that it's in writing if it really is a concern of yours or your clients. Or in clients, make sure your realtor knows that we'd really like that bird bath. Bird baths often don't stay with the property. Park benches don't often stay with the property. Most of our weird mediations that I've seen are over things that aren't even attached to the property. Park benches, rose bushes,
when in doubt, ask.
Like ask.
And then we will try to resolve it before it has to go to mediation or further.
Now, what happens if it goes to mediation?
What happens? You go into a room, or sometimes separate rooms, depending on if the parties can get together, and you work out, you go back and forth until you can come to an agreement or a solution.
And if you can't, that's when the court gets involved. And then judges will judge, because that's what you're asking them to do, whether you like it or not. And most people, in the situations I've seen in the last couple years, often get an attorney just because they don't know legalese. And I can respect that if they don't know legalese, they get someone that's their job. And so that just adds time, money, And so you got to weigh it. But there are times when it really is important to go to mediation, because whether it be unethical or underhanded,
or a big enough problem that splitting it or just it might not be possible. Like, we might not be able to come.
If it's a $5,000 repair and the seller doesn't have $5,000, nor do they feel like they should be paying $5,000, heck, they don't have the $2,500 to pay half of it, they may not want to try and pay any of it, and the buyer didn't want to deal with this trouble because it was something that, to their knowledge, was a pre-existing thing. So it's up to the judge to look at the facts and be like, okay, here's what you guys are going to do, not what you're going to say you're going to do. You're going to do it because now the court of law is involved. We really hope it never comes to that in some of these situations. Right. That's why we want to hash it out beforehand. And clients, I'm going to get sassy with you right now. Do not do it buyer to seller directly if there's a realtor involved. You can break a lot of rules without realizing it. We once had a situation where the buyer was leaving messages in the mailbox for the seller.
Oh, no.
One, you're breaking federal law by leaving mail in a mailbox without the person. It's one thing if you go, hey, Erin, I'm going to drop off that jug of Kool-Aid in your mailbox. And she's like, yeah, that's fine. I approve. You have their blessing. This is, I want to buy your lawnmower. Put in their mailbox. There's some fun federal rules there. But this became a huge situation because the realtors didn't have any paperwork on this lawnmower or monetary agreement. And the seller supposedly never agreed, but the buyer swears they had a gentleman's agreement. There's no paperwork. There's nothing to back it up.
Right.
It was someone taking a physical conversation, and one person viewed it this way, and the other person viewed it that way, and those views didn't match. And it became quite a heated situation at closing that we were blessed that we were able to simmer it down and get the property to close. But that's what we're here for, to prevent these things from occurring. That if you'd just gone to your realtor and gone, hey, I got this message from the buyer about the lawnmower, we kind of agreed on this, or the buyer go to their agent and go, hey, I want to buy that lawnmower off them. And if you told me you left the message in the mailbox, I would have gone, okay, don't do that again.
Right.
Let me contact the agent and handle it. But the seller did not realize to tell them, and the buyer didn't think to tell their person. So just a little grain of salt as a client. Don't do mailbox communication like that. That's what we're here for, because that was one of the most hostile closings I've ever been a part of. Over something we didn't even know was going on until like one day before closing. And we're just like, scramble! We're here to help. Let us help you. My whole goal in life is to help you, I swear. Okay. I've talked a lot. I think we're probably over time.
We are close.
We are close. Well, if you guys have any questions at all about mediation, real estate, I don't know how to make pancakes, so I can't help you with that. But anything real estate, we're here to help. We'd love to answer your questions, whether on the podcast or at our email, which is what? Admin at?
WRME.
I'll let her say it. Say it loud and clear.
WRME at mainedge.com.
Because she knows this stuff, and I'm still behind the times. I'll stick to being a paperwork monkey. Okay. You guys have a great week. Try not to roast in the summer heat. Supposedly it's going to get up to like 106, 107 this weekend. Is it next weekend? All I know is it's going to be very, very toasty. And I'm not looking forward to toasty.
The next few weekends are supposed to be nice and warm.
Those don't seem to belong in the same sentence right now.
Yes,
because Oklahoma's definition of warm is like, here, convection oven. Let me cook you like a pie. And I don't want to be a pie.
And I like it.
I like the warmth. I do not like being a pie. Or Salisbury steak or anything else that might get put in an oven. No, thank you. Okay. Well, we are WRME Live. It was a delight to talk to you guys. Again, let us know if you have any questions. In the meantime, we are Weichert Realtors Main Edge, where we do real life, real world real estate every day.
Bye.
Bye, guys.